I already knew what time it was.
All right, I'll see if I can get it. I think it started on my page instead of
Oh, is it not working?
I think it was going on my page, but I think I've switched it over to positive page.
Yeah, now you good. Now you good.
Right.
Sandra. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you caught that, Lex.
All right, there we go.
Sandra did. She kept coming and saying it's not on, it's not on. I'm like, yeah, it's on, but it wasn't on.
It started on mine, and now we went over. Alexis, I mean that pretty much sums up your 4 years, doesn't it? We just spent 10 minutes talking about a one-on-one game.
Yeah,
that was what it was like.
No, because Candace liked to argue.
I like to argue. I like to argue. Time out.
Hey, CP, why your face do that?
I'm just saying, look at Nikki.
Yeah.
Nikki stirring the pot. She want to stir the pot and then get mad when I'm like, nah, let's tell what really happened.
Argue.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
I mean, I like to
Nikki.
argue, but so do you. So we're just going to be arguing back and forth.
It's got 18
that
degrees, so
The
she can
pot
argue.
calling a kettle.
She like to argue.
Oh.
I need Sunshine to weigh in here. One, Alex, tell everybody why they call you Sunshine. How'd you get that nickname?
I think you should probably ask Lex, because to be honest with you, I have no idea.
That's Alexa.
Yeah, so Sunshine, everybody knows she's really nice and sweet, but she can be a little, a-hole sometimes, many times. Alex, you know it. So I'm like, man, you ain't nothing but like a soft teddy bear, basically, like. And so I just started calling her Sunshine, because they be like, oh my God, Alex is a bitch. I used to throw parties. In college, and like people they just couldn't handle something. If people like you,
That's because people don't know how to act. People don't know how to act.
Don't like you, it's a wrap. If Sunshine, if you don't like somebody, it's a wrap. So I just gave that whole opposite perspective.
I don't know if that's what people were thinking the nickname was about.
Nobody's ever asked.
Okay, for her.
Oh, she's a bright light in our life, so we call her Sunshine.
See, that's it. Comes off real well, right? You just probably a cute story behind that. Sorry, Maria, you asked for it though.
That's all right. I did ask. Alex, all these kids, they all left you in 2008, and you were stuck with the next six pack, a whole bunch of freshmen, because off Candace and Nicky and Alexis go to the WNBA. Alberta can't be here. Her police, she's shift commander something on her police duty, so Alberta couldn't make it in. She's not going to be able to come in on her phone. Alex, my understanding is that those freshmen who came in class of 2008 caused you such migraines, you ended up having to go to the hospital because of them. Is that correct?
What? I don't know if it was because of them. They may have had a little bit to do with it. But yeah, when they left, I remember 2008, after we won, being with Candace and Pat and just boohooing my eyes out. Candace was, I guess, trying to make a decision on whether or not she was going to stay, whether she was going to leave, all that jazz. And I think it just became real that everybody that I came in with was about to bounce on me. Now, we did an okay job of staying in touch and things like that, but it was just the reality of not being with them every day, not seeing them every day, not living with them, things like that. But I will say that last year, it kind of helped me as far as coaching wise, just learning the game and having to teach and things like that. So I would credit that year to the reason that I'm coaching now.
Candace, I'd ask you to share the story of your shoulder coming out in Tampa. And you asked, I think it was Vicky Ball who was rooming with you, to to please go
Oh,
get,
Vicky.
please tell Jenny, can you just pick up that story for me?
Oh, Vic. So my shoulder got messed up in the, I believe it was the Elite Eight game to go to the Final Four. It came out a couple times. And so
Was that Texas A&M?
that was Texas A&M. I just remember, the thing I remember from that game is like my shoulder popped out and Lex hit that shot from like the second hash, that 3-point shot. Like I remember that. But anyway, and Pat's speech at halftime was unbelievable. But anyway, so my shoulder was popped out, whatever. It was kind of one of those things where I don't know if Jenny told me. I mean, she told me like the details of everything, but she knew that I was going to play. I wanted to be on the court with my crew that I came in with. And so it was just kind of about rehab. So at night, I would sleep, and this was the first time it popped out when I was sleeping. And I remember I woke up and it was like, and it popped out, and it was like the day before the game against LSU. And so I like try to tell Vicky, I'm like, hey, she's in the, the other bed. And I'm like, hey, Vic, like, can you go get Dr. Morgan or go get Jenny or somebody to like help me get this back in? So she jumps up, and I'm like, quietly, like, can you call them? I'm assuming like call them, not like go out in the hallway. So Vicky jumps up out of bed, runs in the hallway, and is like, Candace is hurt. And she starts screaming, going up and down the hallway, like banging on everybody's door. I have people, like there's a couple that was like across from us. They came and peeked their head in at my shoulder. I'm like, Vicky, what are you doing? The rooming list is right here. Like, whose room Dr. Morgan and Jenny are. So they came, and after like an hour, we tried to get it back in and it wouldn't go back in. So I had to wait, and then we were going to go to the hospital. And then at the last moment, Dr. Morgan got it to pop back in. And then it was just kind of rehab from then. Like Jenny was the best at that. Like we round the clock rehabbed. She damn near slept in my room, making sure that my shoulder was okay to play. And we kind of just, went from there. And then I actually messed up my shoulder again on Nicky's jersey in the WNBA. And that's why I eventually had to have surgery. My thumb caught on her jersey and it went out. And that was a wrap in the WNBA. I had to have surgery after that.
Now, Jenny would have had the last call on you playing in Tampa. How close were you to Jenny not clearing you?
I think it was one of those things where, Jenny was looking out and trying to make sure that I was good for the future. But at that point in time, like I can get surgery for the WNBA. There's only one more time I could be playing in the Final Four. So I think she understood the importance of it. If it was a regular season game, I don't think I would have played. But, it was just, Jenny was amazing. Pat was the one actually at the Elite Eight game that was like, if it pops out again, like you're done. Because it popped out twice. But other than that, like, we were kind of on the same page and making sure that I'm healthy enough to go out on the court and play. And everybody here knows how dope Jenny was in rehabbing us back to health and making sure that we can play. I mean, we had Lex's hand and things like that happened. Freshman year, and Nicky, just getting your body healthy. Same thing with Alex with your knees. So I think we all really realized how important and crucial Jenny was to our success.
Absolutely. I loved most Shaq. Man, CP, I was right there when your shoulder popped out. I don't remember if you remember that picture that was like in the paper the next day, and I was like,
yeah, you and Alex did that. Nicky was like, you had a breakaway layup. How come you didn't finish? And I was like, my shoulder is hanging out. I give the ball to the ref, and the first question, Nicky's like, you had a wide open layup.
I was so angry. I'm like, forget your shoulder. We can deal with that later. The layup.
oh man.
Alex, Pat also wrote in her book, boy, Pat was spitting secrets in that book about, it took this class 2 years to really get along, to like figure out you needed each other. What do you think finally did it, besides just growing up a little bit, getting older? I mean, you come in 18, now you're 19, 20 years old. What was the key to this group to all come together?
I think when we came in as freshmen, first of all, we all were All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans. Back then, it was WBCA All-Americans. We all went to Nike camps and all that stuff. So we all kind of knew each other. I think we coming in, everybody had a very strong, independent personality. And sometimes that caused us to butt heads, but not in a just negative way. Most of the arguments and the almost fights and altercations happened on the court from a competitive sense. I think once we finally realized that, well, we're all, regardless of how we think, how we feel about each other, at the end of the day, we all want one thing, and that's a championship. And so, we all knew, we were pretty honest with ourselves and with each other. We knew we also needed each other to win, regardless of roles and positions and things like that. Candace needed Lex needed Nicky needed Alex, and so on and so forth. And so I think once we realized that, that's when, you saw the championships happen, and the maybe being a little bit less selfish. We were all, and it's funny because I tell my teams this right now, that we could get in dang near fist fight in practice and then go in the locker room and be like, what y'all trying to eat today? And so I think we had enough respect for each other to be able to get over what was going on the court, off the court, whatever the case is.
I think for me, Maria, it's everybody kind of glosses around sometimes, like not liking certain people. And it's one of those things where it's like nobody says it. And I think the turning point was like sophomore year before we went to junior year, when like we were just like, we made a commitment to stay that next summer, and everybody stayed. I think some people actually stayed both semesters. And we worked out and did things. And I think sometimes people want to respect certain things about individuals, but they don't want to respect what they bring and what they're good at. And I think at some point it was a switch of respecting what people were good at, both on the court and off the court, and respecting who somebody is and kind of seeing where they come from. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is there was a point where Nicky and I both were like, I don't like you. You don't like me. So what are we going to do? Like, you're going to leave, I'm going to leave. Like, what's the deal? Same thing like Lex, we both have smart mouths. So we would talk back and forth all the time. But it got to a point where it was like, we got to respect, like, that's Lex, that's Candace, that's Nicky, that's Alex. Like, that's how they operate. Okay. That's their strengths. That's their weaknesses. Like, I'm going to respect what they bring to the team. And once we got to that point, yes, like we could do anything. And then I think it's also just, there's moments that we've had each other's back. And when you look around and you're able to go to blow with somebody, be at the best and their worst, see people struggling, go through the ups and downs of that, and go through it with somebody, like you respect them more and you want to be a part. I mean, we're all keeping contact in some sort of way. Now, it might be we talk forever for 3 months, and then maybe we don't talk for a while, and then we talk forever for 3 months. But like, I hope everybody knows, like, I got your back. And I think that's what was established even when we left Tennessee. Like, this is a sisterhood. That's what Pat always preached. And we finally were able to do that and win.
Yep.
People, I think, forget too the struggle of winning championships and what you have to go through. I mean, the 2008 national championship year, obviously you lost at Stanford. Then in the SC, yeah, I mean, that's the scariest Pat ever was after Christmas practice, when she sat at the table and didn't say a word. I thought, they'd probably be better off if she was up yelling at them.
Was that the meeting, Candace?
That's when Candace didn't want to deny that high post.
Yeah, I remember, because Candace was saying all this stuff in the meeting, and then Pat was like writing it down. And Candace was like, "Who's with me?" We were all like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Candace."
That's the first time Pat called Candace Miss Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all remember that?
Yep.
I don't remember that.
Oh, Miss Parker. So
you don't remember that meeting?
Who doesn't remember that meeting? Everybody remembers that meeting.
Well,
My point, Maria, in all of this was we were getting out rebounded and Pat was hot. We were getting high load to death at Stanford. So my point was like, you want me to front, deny the high post, and then they're getting rebounds. So like I'm fronting, they're throwing over my head. Jane Appel is doing the little shimmy and shooting that right hand hook that she pushes off and they never call. So like, what do you want me to do? What's the agenda? Because I'm doing that. And she's like, so we got into it, and then they thought it was hilarious because yeah. And so we got into it, and they're, you know, it all came to a head eventually.
Eventually.
I also remember, and I'm sorry to bring up the losses, but they lead to the wins, the LSU game at home in 2008. And I mean, y'all know how that game ended. And I believe, Alex, that's when you wrote Pat a note as y'all were getting off the bus. I think at the next game you went to, it may have been Vanderbilt. And it said something to the effect of that will never happen again. And you guys went undefeated to finish the year and obviously won the 2008 national championship. Alex, do I have that story correct? Was that the time you gave Pat the note?
I think what happened was, y'all can correct me, I'm not sure, is that after we had to walk to the top of the freaking stadium or no?
I remember we played that Rutgers game and that LSU game in the same week. Do you remember that? So I think Monday was Rutgers, or maybe Tuesday was Rutgers, and then Thursday was LSU.
I think it was Saturday, Monday, because I remember our LSU game was on the like rivalry week, and it was like the big deal. And then we decided that was that Duke where we like walked through the stadium?
I just know we had like one day in between that Rutgers game and then the LSU game, and we were up in the LSU game by like 20 points at one point, and then all of a sudden, the second half, we just didn't come out focused, and that was when Sylvia Fowles hit me in the face, and like I was bleeding all over the court, and Pat came on the court looking for my teeth. She's like, "Did she lose a tooth?" But you know, we had a way of, you know, now it's kind of like every time a team loses in college basketball, the coach is like, we're just going to learn from it. And it's like, I don't think that they actually do, but we had a way of actually genuinely learning from it and coming out fired up the next game and not letting it happen again. Like if you have to keep learning from a loss 10 times a season, something is wrong. You know, it didn't take us that many times. You know, one loss would get us refocused, and then we might slip up again, you know, and lose another game, but it would get us refocused. And, you know, those losses did help us win those championships. That's what I think.
No, they helped us win those championships, but also like, let's not forget we were playing the #1 schedule in the country. So it's like we act like, you know, yeah, when we're playing UC Davidson of, you know, Bahamas, like, then of course we can like not focus and still probably kill them by 50. But it's like our team, like Pat made it a priority to play a top schedule every single year that we were there. And it was fun for us. Mm-hmm. And that meant sometimes when you didn't come with the most amount of focus or something like that, like stuff was going to happen. And so I think
even with the not so good teams though, you were still night in and night out, you were still getting everybody's best.
Right.
Everybody's best.
I was going to say. Mm-hmm.
Got a target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. Y'all won at Mississippi State, then you played Rutgers at home and you won, and then you hosted LSU and you lost, and then you go to Vanderbilt and you crushed them by 20. So that's when I heard on that road trip, Alex, that you dropped a note in Pat's lap, getting off the bus.
I would have to assume it was probably after. I feel like it was after a team meeting that we had, and for whatever reason, I was always the one to be volunteered to do things like that. And I think that's how that happened.
What are your best memories of Pat? And in hindsight, no one if I had known watching Pat trim that ladder in 2008 that she'd retire 4 years later, be dead 6 years later. I mean, to this day, I can't reconcile that, watching her in Tampa and then what happened. So how special is that 2008 national championship in hindsight now?
I mean, obviously it's legendary. I mean, we were a part of something of Coach's last championship run, of really her being in her right mind. And, you know, it's sad. It's bittersweet. Like when you think about it, it's like, dang, because like, I think I'll just speak for me personally, especially when it came down to that LSU game where I struggled. Like, I think about like, dang, Lex, like what happens if y'all didn't win that? Like that would have been, we would have went out and Coach wouldn't have went out on the note that she went out on. I mean, she obviously is going to be a Hall of Famer. She always, to me, will be the best coach that I've ever played for. But at the same time, it would have been totally different. So like, I'm so grateful and so thankful looking back now versus when we won. And it was just like, you know, that feeling of elation and being happy and going back to back and whatnot. But now it's more than that, you know?
I learned more about Coach in those last 4 years after we graduated and on. Because I think all of us have been here and have heard her lessons, but it's great to see that she actually like walks the walk as well. Because you can tell somebody to do something, and then when it comes time for you to do it, you know, you don't. And it's easy when you're winning championships and everything is great, but that's not how her career started out. Right. And the middle phase was championships. And then after that, she was able to kind of prove that she was that same person, that she had not taken anything for granted, that all her lessons, she actually preached and did what she preached. And so I think for me, it was the fact that it was so special to be a part of her last championship. Obviously, none of us knew it, but at the same time, it kind of kickstarted the point of like, we kind of did this our 4 years where we did stuff when we had to. And Coach Summitt would always talk about that. Like, I believe in us figuring out a way to get it done, but like, let's not make things interesting or make things hard. We love making things hard. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that 2008 season, it like really was Pat. Like, it was just like everything that went into it, the stress, the conversations, it would have been not as memorable if it was easy, you know? And so I just feel like that 2008 championship, it was great. Who is that?
EJ.
My baby.
EJ.
He's a great fan. He's huge.
I know, he is huge.
That's the next ball right there.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that the last championship was super special for me because Pat was so open with us. Like, she told us about her, look at him.
What up, man?
I cannot. Oh my gosh.
I remember EJ when he be at the game. He come on the bus.
No.
So
yeah.
Sorry. You know he steals the show every time, but go ahead.
I know. I didn't even hear anything Nicky was saying. I was like, oh, EJ. Okay. Sorry.
But no, Pat was really open with us, which I think is something that is missing. Like, the authenticity of coaches is missing these days. Pat was really authentic. You know, she told us about her struggles, not just previously, like in her basketball coaching career, but her personal life. And, you know, everything that she was going through, she would sit us down. We always knew when something was about to go down because she would call a meeting randomly. Mm-hmm. And then we'd be like, what happened today? Anybody know? You know, trying to figure it out. You know, and it would just be random. Like, it could literally be just like, he's distracting me, y'all. It could literally just be like pulling, you know, chairs into a circle and having a meeting. Or it could be like calling us into the conference room in the coach's offices, or it could be in the locker room. Like, she would just call a meeting anywhere and we just knew it was about to go down. So, you know, she would tell us everything, like really personal details about her life and some of the struggles she was going through at home. And so, you know, I think that made us like get closer with her. And I know for me, it made me like want to win for her even more, because it was like, okay, here's someone who's giving us everything, even though she's struggling and going through some really hard times. You know, if we can just win, you know, for ourselves, for our team, for our school, for the state, but also for her, you know, and just kind of make her feel like all this work she's pouring into us is not in vain, then it would really like be something special. And so that's why it was so important to me, is because those last 2 years we were in school, Pat was struggling personally. And so, you know, I know that those championships meant more to her than just being able to cut down nets. You know, I know that it really solidified, you know, some of the decisions that she made that I think she was kind of questioning at that time. So that's my 2 cents. That's why it's really special, is because she was struggling, but she still gave us her all.
What about you, Alex? I mean, it's also interesting too how many of you guys coach. I mean, you're head coach at Gardner Webb. Candace is still playing, of course. Alexis, you're coaching now in North Carolina in high school basketball. Nicky, you're gonna go to school and get your 17th degree, best I can count, and also coach at Anderson County High School. I mean, Pat's legacy lives forever through young ladies like you. And what, Alex, I'll ask you, because you're now a head coach. Why do so many of y'all end up in coaching?
Well, I think it's just, you know, the passion for the game that we have. And I think all of us have a little bit of Pat in us when it comes to our coaching styles, when it comes to how we are, what our expectations are. For Candace, how she plays. It's a post game with Pat in our hearts is never gonna be gone. I think the one thing that Pat did a great job of, and she really did it where you didn't notice it, but she had an individual relationship with each of us. My relationship with her wasn't like hers with Nicky's. Nicky's wasn't like Lex's. Lex's wasn't like Candace's. Every player on our team had a different type of relationship, and that's because she knew how each of us were. Now, did we understand that sometimes? Absolutely not. But in the end, hindsight, you know, you look at that and you're like, dang, that takes a lot of effort to have a relationship with 14, how many other players we had? 13, sometimes it was 10 players on one team, and have a different relationship with all of them. So I think just whether it's me and coaching or Candace and playing, Nicky and coaching, Lex and coaching, we've all taken pieces of Pat with us throughout our careers.
Maria, I think the biggest thing that set me up for failure going into the WNBA is the fact that, and I think everybody can attest to this, there were so many times where Pat would come into the huddle and ask what we think. Mm-hmm. What do you guys feel? What defense do you want to run? What play do you want to run on the other end? What's going to get us a bucket? What's going to do this? Nicky, what do you think defensively? Should we switch? Like, what should we do? And I can still hear her say ownership. Because when you feel like you're a part of something and somebody sets you up and really is in tune and comfortable in their skin and confident in themselves to be able to ask what you think and not take it in some sort of way in a huddle. There's not coaches that do that. And so when you kind of go into different coaches and you experience different things, we said what we had to say, but we knew Pat was the final decision. Like, that was what happened. She had the final say, but we all shared things. There was a number of times where we'd go in and Lex would go in the coaches meeting before our timeout, or Nicky would go, or we'd have our own players meeting where she would walk in and we would list all the things we did in the first half and things we need to do better in the second half. She would come in and literally be like, yep. Okay, y'all got it. Like, let's deny this. Let's do this. Let's whatever. So we took ownership of ourselves, and like, she respected that and created that and wanted that. And so when you go and play for other coaches that aren't necessarily on that or don't necessarily have the confidence or respect for themselves, it's difficult as a player. I know you all probably played for other coaches. Nick and Lex in the WNBA playing for other coaches, like it's sometimes difficult to come from that because they don't want to hear what you have to say sometimes. And, you know, it is kind of like a listen when they talk type of league.
Nicky, besides Pat giving you a sex talk in college, what are some of your greatest memories of Pat off the court? I mean, everybody sees the Pat that we see on TV, but what are some of your favorite memories of her off the court? And it could be from when you played, after you played, anything, if y'all can all answer that.
One thing about Pat is she really genuinely liked having us at her house. Like they literally would prepare her, the managers, I don't remember who else, but they would prepare like all day for a meal at Pat's house. And I really, you know how you can feel when someone is like really enjoying your company at their house, and when someone is kind of like, you're here because I kind of felt obligated to invite you, but I don't really want you here. I like can't wait for you to leave. It was like Pat, Pat really, really liked having us at her house. And she was in a different element when she was at her house and when she was cooking and preparing meals for us and all that. She was almost like, she was more maternal, you know? And so I would say my favorite memories are going to her house, getting to enjoy her food. She really did know how to cook.
Man, jalapeno corn was like.
Except that one time she made red beans and rice. Do y'all remember that? We were like, Pat, what is, you remember that? Because hers comes from New Orleans.
Yeah, she would try to cater that. We'd order too. We got to order our meals. Like, you want chicken, steak, or salmon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pat would cook for us, and we got to, you know, eat whatever we wanted. And so that's probably my best memories of Pat was like coming to her house and like, or going to her house and her preparing our meals and just kind of relaxing with her, like around the pool. She had a beautiful like outdoor area at her house, plenty of space. And everyone just got to kind of relax for a few hours. You know, some people were playing video games, some people were watching TV, some people were, you know, everyone was just kind of doing them, and it was fun. You know, it really was like, she created a real family atmosphere. And I feel like, I know other coaches bring players to their house and all that kind of stuff, but it's never like as genuine as when Pat did it. You know, I really, really feel like she used that time to get to know us a little more. I remember one time we went to her house and she had us bring pictures of our family. And we all, I think we had to each bring three important pictures of people, like 3 people that were important in our lives or something. Maybe three important memories. I'm not sure. But we all had to bring 3 pictures, and we all sat around and explained our pictures. And like some of us even broke down into tears because it was just like really emotional. And we got to like get to know each other on a deeper level. And it was obvious that Pat wanted to know us, almost to the point that Alex made. Pat wanted to know us and made it a point to get to know us on a deeper level, not just basketball, you know, which I think is missing a lot in the game. Is like a lot of the players are just an avenue for the coaches to line their pockets. You know, and Pat was never like that. It was so obvious that she could care less about the money. You know, she really, really genuinely cared for us. And I feel so lucky that I had that experience, because I would say majority of players have no idea what that's like, because, you know, in a lot of ways, they probably feel like a commodity. Like, you're here for 4 years, you're going to win for us or do whatever we tell you to do. And then you're gone and the next wave of players will come in. Well, we never felt like, you know, and so we are so lucky that we had that experience.
What about you, Alexis? What's your biggest memory of Pat
Off court, I would have to say there's really two. My office talks with coach were always interesting, but they always ended well. It's almost like Clash of the Titans, and then by the end of it, it's like Pat really has you thinking whatever she wants, or she has a way of kind of bringing you around to the bigger picture. And it's just like, dang, we probably could have avoided that. But I love those talks because we talk about any and everything. It wasn't just basketball. It wasn't just school. It was family. It was future. Like, do you feel like you're headed in the right direction type things? And I used to always wear like hats, right? I always wore fitted hats. And Pat used to hate that. She was like, that's not going to work in the business world. And me being from West Virginia, growing up in racism, and if a white person wants to tell me don't wear my hat because you look like a thug, I took that was offensive. Like, and I'm like, I'm wearing more hats every day, backwards. I don't care. Like, that's how I was, but I wasn't getting the fact that she was like, I'm not saying don't wear your hats. I'm telling you, if you walk into a meeting like this, or if you run into a new relationship and you look a certain way, unfortunately, people judge a book by its cover. And I was like, okay. And then the second one would be, this was, CP, I think I came to your game in Atlanta. Yeah, I came to your game in Atlanta, and Pat was there. And we went to the bar. I'm like, Coach, please let me buy you a drink. Like, I've been waiting for this moment. She was like, no, I get you. I said, no, Coach, you don't understand. I've been waiting for this moment. So she let me buy her a drink, and we just sat and we were just talking, and of course watching the game. So definitely my two favorite off-court things that I had with Coach Summitt.
What about you, Candace?
I think the hardest thing that I had to tell Pat was the next year when I got pregnant with my daughter. And it was almost more stressful to tell Pat and my parents. Like, it was like they were in the same category of like, I don't want them to like think my career's over. I don't want them to like, I had all these thoughts. And I remember I called her one evening and I told her, and her reaction was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Like, this is awesome. She's definitely got to be a Lady Vol. Like, the fights of Tennessee has to be like a nursery rhyme. Like, we have to, whatever. And then the next day I wake up and there's like strollers, there's pom-pom outfit, there's a Tennessee, football jersey. And she sent all that stuff for Layla. And I think my next moment is when I came back to Tennessee. Let's see, Layla was like 13, 14 months. And I went and visited Vicky. I had a really close relationship with Vicky the next year. So Alex was gone. It was like the year after that. And I came back and I brought Layla. And there's a picture that they caught of Layla on the court with Coach. And then she actually skipped practice and went up in the stands and was playing the drums with Layla during practice. So it was just really cool to see like your kid with your coach that had such a huge influence in your life. And like Layla still knows who she is. She still calls her Toach because that's all she could say when she was younger. So I think that it's kind of, and notice like nobody really said anything on the court. Like, we're all talking about memories that we've had of Coach Summitt off of the court. And so I think that's what's so special is people that say, oh my gosh, your coach, such a great coach, whatever. It's like, yeah, she was a great coach, but she was a better human being and really cared about us. And we really were her kids. I mean, she was like a second mom to us for sure.
What about you, Alex?
I think it was, probably just seeing her with Tyler as a mom, whether it was us being at her house, like Nicky said, Tyler being at practices after he would get out of school, things like that. I think probably one of the best trips that we ever had was our Virgin Islands trip. And now we won that tournament, but I don't know how. Well, yeah, that. But that was probably when we went to, what was it called? Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney house. And at his house, that was the most relaxed that I had ever seen Pat. I don't even remember her coaching a game. Like, that was how relaxed she was. Now, we won, clearly, but like, we had the best trip, and it had zero to do with winning that tournament. I mean, Pat was on the jet skis, like they were out on the boat, like just straight chilling. And I don't think any of us at that point had ever seen Pat like that. But I think that trip will always stand out for me, probably for everybody, because.
But Alex, she fought to like let us stay another day. Do you remember that? Because she was like, we're gonna stay a day after, so y'all don't have to worry about squeezing in everything you guys want to do. Win the tournament, and we'll have so much fun after we win.
Yeah,
like
Pat.
that was. We went to Kenny's house. He had a spread. His band was there. I don't know none of his songs, but he played some songs that
Carlo was dancing to the songs though.
Yeah. She
That's
definitely
crazy. I knew it at that time. I probably knew at least like 4 of his songs. Like, I used to listen to Kenny Chesney, like, for real.
I think Lex sung. Didn't you and Dom sung at his house? Yeah.
Alex, I think one of the best games you had at Tennessee during your career, I mean, you had several, but the one that stands out is when you were put in the starting lineup in Chicago for Candace.
It's always just
I mean,
thanks, Candace.
You had a monster game against DePaul. So, Candace, I have always wanted to know, I know you missed curfew. Pat had to do what she did. I mean, how late were you? I've heard 5 minutes. I've heard 6 hours.
I was on time to curfew. That's the thing. Like, I was in my room for curfew. I just left after curfew in the hotel. Like, I went to another floor. I was in the hotel. And we were in my hometown. So it was like one of those things where it's like, well, I'm not out on the streets. I'm not walking. Like, I'm back in time for curfew. I even nodded what's up to the person checking curfew. Like, I was like, she checked it. I was back. I like left and nodded what's up. Like, that's, yeah. So anywho, them telling us, like, a week later after everything, all the emotions and everything, Lex, Nicky, and Alex were just jerks. Like, they thought it was the funniest thing ever that I had.
It wasn't you getting in trouble wasn't the funny thing. But why you or how you got in trouble was the funny part.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure it was.
Because I mean, yeah.
That was a fun trip. Do you remember that night that we were allowed to go out in Chicago for New Year's?
Yep.
Was the thing. That was the thing with Pat too. Like, when we went to nice places. Like, we didn't go to, I don't want to be mean, but we didn't go to these small places. Like, we were in Chicago for holidays. We were in the Virgin Islands and things like that. And she allowed us to go out and explore without, our coaches or without a GA watching our back. That's all the time.
No, they still were. We just didn't know it.
Well, hold on. Well, yeah. So Pat, that's true, Alex. Pat did let us go out. Like, we were in Chicago. She let us go to Chicago like a few days early. Remember, we were there for a while.
We were there for 5 days. Yep.
Yeah, we were there. So she let us go to Chicago for a few days just to relax and chill. So New Year's Eve, she let us go out. She was like, just be back by, I think, like 2 a.m. or something like that. So we hit the club in true,
like we was grown.
Yeah, because that's just how we were. But in our defense, we were very mature. So I think we got back, and I guess Candace missed curfew. I had no idea any of this even happened. The next day, we were at the Michael Jordan practice facility for practice. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, Tim Grover's facility. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Pat called me and Lex over to give us the tea. So Pat was like, Candace was out last night. This, that.
I was with y'all. That's what was so funny. We all went back to the hotel, and I was in the hotel. That's what was so like.
Just make sure our audience needs to know that we were back before curfew.
We were back before curfew. No, all 4 of us.
4
No.
of them.
Thank you. I'm like, no, I was back before curfew. Like, don't. You guys are acting like I was out on the streets at like 3:00 in the morning, like having a great time. No, I was in the hotel.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead, Nikki.
Calm down, sis. Dang. You
There she
good.
goes stirring the pot. Stirring the pot
No, I'm
again.
not. No, that was Pat. Pat was being messy. Pat called me and Lex over there. We had just got to practice. We were trying to put on our little sneakers. Here go Pat. Anosike? Hornbuckle? So we go over there and she's like, Candace missed, curfew. What should her punishment be? So we talked about it for a while. And Pat was going to bench you for the whole game. So you need to thank us. Okay?
Welcome.
You need to thank us, Candace, because we were like, no, you're doing the most, Pat.
And Candace was at home.
Yeah.
We had like 80 people coming to the game.
All y'all, in comparison to going out in Knoxville,
Now you just ahead
that
of
was the
Hold up,
first
man.
time. That's the first time I ever done got in trouble. Like,
I don't have
ever
anything
done got in trouble. Like, of all the people here missing curfew, who would you think it would be?
Like, Candace missed the whole point of what we just said.
Right. She instead of saying thank you, Vic and Lex. Thank
Saying
you.
thank
You're
you,
gonna pull us under the
but
bus.
gonna bench you the whole game. And we were like, Pat, her whole family's here. Come on. Just bench her the first half. Let her
No,
play.
but me and Pat had some heated moments because of the whole Stanford. Like, we hadn't got over the Stanford thing. So this came at the exact terrible moment of me not missing curfew, but being there and then leaving curfew.
Whatever.
Anyway.
Just
Yeah.
say thank you, Lex and Nikki, for the
That's
work
it.
that y'all did to
That's
allow me to play for half a game in front of my family. 'Cause
But at
without
some
y'all-
point, were you not like, but she came back with us to the hotel? Like, you never.
no,
thought to
because the
say
way
that?
she explained it, she explained. Look, Pat was being messy because she explained the whole story about what happened.
I had to call Shaw's room, and she was like, she's telling us like, not that you missed curfew. She is saying like, and she left, and
I
then
will
she
just never forget when Shell answered the phone and I heard him like, yes, ma'am. She's here, ma'am. What are you doing? She's here. He's like, well, she asked me. I can't lie to Pat. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, she told us all of that. Pat was like,
yeah, she
And Bird, listen, Bird was the homie though. Bird wouldn't open the door. Bird was trying to call me. Like, my cell phone was, I don't know, somewhere on silent because everybody was calling from New Year's. So yeah, Bird called over and over and over again. She's like, she wasn't going to answer the door. So, I mean, I'm thankful for Bird and I guess y'all. So I appreciate it.
That was so hard for her to say.
Looking crazy.
she had to look down too. Like, yeah, I guess. Like, dang.
For those watching that don't know, that was Candace's homecoming game in Chicago. And literally there were so many people your section took up, I mean, the whole back area of the bench. They had T-shirts with your picture on them. I mean, it was quite a time for Pat to pull you out of the starting
Nikki,
lineup.
quit shaking your head. What are you shaking your head like you're disappointed? You're doing the Pat shake.
No, because Maria's saying all of that, but Pat didn't care nothing about that.
No, she
Pat
didn't.
was gonna sit you the whole game. She really did not care that it was in front of your family.
She did.
As far as she
was
was like, that's your fault. You should have been thinking about that.
and I was like, the whole game?
Yeah, me and
You
Lex
mean like the whole game. Like,
Well,
nah,
Candace-
don't do that.
Candace, there's a piece missing here then. If you made curfew and made check, how did you get caught?
She told you. She walked by the manager. Not
The
a
manager, it wasn't the manager, but okay. They check curfew. So like they go there and this person goes to the rooms and is like, hey. Now, mind you, in other cities other than Chicago, they go and then you can leave your room and go get treatment or something like that. Like go get to the snack room, go wherever. So me, I wasn't trying to like sneak out. Sheldon was flying back, I think the next day. And in Knoxville, it would be like you go out for New Year's and then like you're back when you're supposed to your dorm, but it's not like somebody's like, hey, you can't go to the snack machine. So for me, it was like, I'm in the hotel.
Right.
I'm in the hotel. I was not trying to sneak out. Like this was like, looking back, I probably should have, because then it probably wouldn't have been this big of a deal. But at the same time, oh, no, I probably shouldn't say that as a mom. I shouldn't have done what I did. But if I were going to do it, I would be smarter.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so the person was checking the next room. I walk out of my room, nod, and then there's like a stairwell that's right here. I would have probably gone to the elevator, but I went to the stairwell because it was only 2 floors up. So I walk up the stairs and I go to Shell's room. Like that was how it was. We just had gotten back from I can't remember what dinner and club we went to. Like we all met up. Nicky got almost hit by a cab, but that's another story.
Now,
Nicky almost got hit by a cab, but we're not gonna go into that story.
No.
It really happened.
Wait a minute. There wasn't no almost. She got hit.
No, she got hit by a cab.
She got hit.
Now it had been on TMZ. I'm not gonna lie. Like if it was nowadays, it would have been on TMZ.
Story happened, but I could go back and tell you how it really went down.
Oh Lord,
If
here we go.
really want to get down to it, Sheldon, the one got hit by the taxi.
Yeah, you're right. He did get hit by the taxi. You're right. And then Nicky went off.
I cussed out the taxi cab driver.
You're right.
Once we got, because there were no taxis that night. So I was like, wait, now we got to get in. But I'm going to cuss out once we get close to our hotel. And then
you guys, can I just say how thankful I am that social media was not what it is today back then?
Amen.
Like
sister.
I can't even imagine some of the dumb stuff or conversations or things that happen even in Knoxville, just going out to a restaurant or whatever, that would have just been like the taxi cab, like Nicky cussing out the driver would have been on TMZ.
Listen,
yeah,
I would have had no scholarship.
like, you are not getting a tip. Yeah.
Me neither, Lex.
Yeah.
I would have been on the bus back to Shelbyville.
Yeah, I'd have been back in West Virginia, bro. I've been in Dunbar because I would not have a scholarship if social media. Because I was just
I
wrecked.
guess so. I was a 4.0 student.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. But don't act like you weren't with us.
No, act like you were not there. That's why I thought it was so funny. Like y'all didn't put 2 and 2 together. Like, wait, she stuck back out because she was with
No,
us.
you know, Kat is a way of making you see things her way. The way she explained it, we ain't have no choice, okay? She backed in the corner.
I just looked to my right and I saw all y'all both nod, and I was like, this is some craziness. Like, look at them over here.
Hey, I was happy it wasn't influence.
For once.
But yeah,
everything.
That was like one of the times I was like, dang, somebody else for real got in trouble. It wasn't me.
Yeah, but every time Lex got in trouble, we had to run. Like, Lex, I know you're not tired, but we are. So can you shut up?
I don't know why that was the punishment.
Like, shut up. We're running for you, and you're not tired, but we are. Like, we're tired.
Full court layup drill. The full court layup.
When you outran the ball.
That was so annoying.
We are supposed to be doing a full court drill. So you start on the baseline, you get a pass, you pass to the next person, you sprint, bam, bam, layup, just in circle, basically. We're just running circles. God knows why. So Lex, in her smart self, says she's missing the layups, and obviously you're not supposed to miss the layups. Well, I'm running too fast, Pat. Well, make the layup, Lex. I'm running too fast. If I keep running fast, I'm gonna go under the goal and keep missing the layup. I don't care. You better make the layup. Da, 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 da. So Lex just starts running in circles. I'm sorry. What do you want me to do?
Pass on purpose. I outran the pass every time.
You want me to slow down? Do you want me to slow down? I can't slow down. If I slow down, and we just kept going and going and going.
Oh, she was literally running around in circles without catching the ball. Like the ball just kept going.
I think the funniest though, like honestly, the funniest was when we were doing conditioning with Ty Fluker. And do you remember, like, because Ty really, she did really good in her senior year and her junior, but she struggled to make the time sometimes, and Lex was annoying as hell and could probably run backwards and make some of the time. So Heather had that rule where you couldn't put your hands on your knees. Do you remember that?
Yeah, she'd be like,
and so Ty would be over in the corner.
feet crossed. Like,
With her feet crossed. That's like my memory of Ty when I think of that conditioning summer in the complex was Lex running and us having to do more running for Lex and Ty wanting to kill Lex because we had to do more running for her.
hey, listen. She told me to speed it up. That's when I started missing my layups. That's why I started missing my layups. Then she
Yeah,
told
but then
me my layup.
she made a sprint, and then you were like, "Is that all?" So then she was like, "No, that's not all." So you had to go stand on the sideline while the rest of us ran, and you were like, you literally did not care that the rest of us were running while you were watching. And I was like, "This is not a punishment for Lex because she doesn't care." Like,
I think
either way,
Lex's comment was, "I don't know what this is gonna do."
yeah,
That's exactly what
that's
she
what she
said.
said.
I don't know what this is gonna do.
And I literally wanted to punch Lex. That she stood on the side and licked her lips.
Yep, like,
So annoying.
man.
I know. I love y'all too. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I do love you, but you were just so annoying in college. So annoying.
We got to a point where we were just like, Lex, let. Let, quit making us run.
Oh man,
Oh my goodness.
I'm bad.
Lex, I know you're one of the biggest advocates for Terry Holder's store, Orange Mountain Designs, and we're doing that. We started this during the COVID shutdown to keep Lady Vol fans connected, and it just took off. I mean, these interviews just took off. We've done so many of them. So obviously you can back her store, go to orangemountaindesigns.com, get a mask.
Yep. $8 today for the mask.
$8 for the blue one. I know, Candace, you've got the left foot, right foot breathe. I mean, that's a tattoo that you have. Candace, I want to ask you.
Go get it together, and then the next day was like, look, you remember that?
No,
Yeah.
because I said it like 15 times. And then
Was
like, yeah, let's get it. And then it was like in normal Lex fashion, like, Lex, it's September and we said this in April.
Okay, maybe that might have some truth to it. Okay, some maybe. All right, but go ahead, Marie. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Lex, do you have any tattoos? I can't remember. Yeah.
Marie, I got my whole back is done. I got my.
That's right. I've seen. Did you had them at Tennessee though, didn't you?
Well, it started with our first one after the championship, and I was always the person that was like, I love how tattoos look. I'll never get one. I got that one, and then the rest is history.
Candace, I know you got one in college. I mean, Pat hated them. She never ever came around on tattoos. Did she have any comments when you got it? The one you got in college? She just
looked at me and would shake her head. And then I couldn't display it, so I had to I actually got 2 on my wrist in college. So I had to first band like the little wristband.
Mm-hmm.
And I wore it my junior year, and then my senior year I had 2 wristbands because I had another tattoo. So yeah.
I do want to ask you, Candace, about winning that WNBA championship in 2016. It's one of the hardest post games I think I've ever watched. The emotion that washed over you, and just how, I mean, for all of you guys, I mean, losing Pat, I mean, how did you find out? And I mean, how did you react when you heard the news?
Candace can go first.
Yeah, Lex, go ahead.
Well, I remember CP, you flew in, we went to go see her. And then what was it? Was it a week later? 2? It was very shortly after that. And it was difficult, even though you know it's coming, even though you never want someone, to live in pain or misery, or, you just kind of want them to let go and let God. But it's just hard because nobody wanted, I didn't want Coach to leave, like, especially now coaching. I would probably pick up the phone and call her every day if I could. So it was just really tough for me. It was like my heart just just sunk. Like I lost someone in my family, because obviously I did. And I don't know, I'm not the best at dealing with emotions either. So, I cried. And then after that, I kind of tried to act as if, okay, I'm going to be strong. Somebody asked me about it. But now when you ask me about it, as you see, like it's tough, and we can't get that time back. We can reminisce and relive memories. And like Alex said earlier, there's a little bit of Pat in all of us in everything we do. I'm sure when it comes to Candace being a mother, and Alex being a mother, I mean, we watched her raise little Time Man, Um, so, and when it comes to playing, when it comes to coaching, mentality, strategy, problem solving, all types of things. And so like when you lose a person that gave you so much for your 4 years, and then after, it's just really, it's breathtaking, and not in a good way. It's really difficult. Like right now, I just feel like my hands just got sweaty, like anxiety raising. So if my camera go off, I don't want y'all to see me cry. That's what happened. All right.
I think for us, especially as her players, we all kind of looked at her as invincible. Nobody thought that anything could ever happen to Pat. Now, did she go through things? Absolutely. Did she have her struggles? Yes, more than likely. But we never thought anything could happen to her. We never thought of life without Pat being here. True. And so I think that's what makes it so hard. That's like the question that I'm sure all of us get. What's it like playing for Pat? Well, what do you mean? Like, she was our coach. There wasn't anything special. We didn't look at her as if she was a celebrity. We looked at her as our coach, as our mom away from home. So I think that's what makes it so hard, is that, we never thought of life without her. And so now that we're having to deal with that, it makes it, that much harder to think about, to deal with, all of that. But at the same time, I think that's why she was such an advocate for our Lady Ball sisterhood, because she knew that at any day, one moment, she wouldn't be here. However, the bonds that we all have, that all the Lady Balls across the world have, that's how she lives on each and every day.
Nicky, how did you get the news that we had lost Pat?
I can't say that I remember. I don't really remember getting the news. I do remember when it really hit me that something was seriously wrong. Because when we first found out that she had early onset dementia, I remember that day I was with Candace, because I was playing for the Washington Mystics. She was playing for the Sparks, and we were playing each other in DC that day.
Yep. We had an earthquake that day too. That was the day.
We had an earthquake. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had an earthquake that day.
Literally and figuratively.
So I do remember that, but I remember just kind of thinking, okay, it's early onset. They just came out with the news. Pat is gonna fight through it, I just didn't think it was gonna progress as fast as it did. And then Candace and I actually, I think the next year, went to the ESPYs to be there to support Pat for the Arthur Ashe Award. And I remember walking into the venue, and I remember I was walking in with Layla, because I think Layla had to go to the bathroom or something. So we were walking back into the place, and I saw Pat across the room. And so I was walking with Layla towards Pat, and I remember Pat was just smiling at Layla, but she never even looked at me. So it was just okay, that's strange, but whatever. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, Pat, and I leaned in to give her a hug, and she stuck her hand out to give me a handshake. So I was just moved her hand and just gave her a hug. And then she was nice to meet you. And I was like, Pat, it's me, Nicky. I played for you, played 4 years for you. And so I remember she just kind of gave me a confused look. And so I was just like, it's okay, Pat. I love you. And then she was like, I love you too. And so I remember just walking away and just like sitting down. And I remember like Candace was trying to console me. She was like, Nicky, it's okay. She didn't remember me either. And I was like, she didn't, and so we just kind of like talked about it that night. And I think that's when it really hit me that something was seriously wrong. This was not just something that popped up every once in a while. It was something that, was going to be a daily battle. And, that was not even a year after they announced it, I don't think, So I think that's when it hit me that, the Pat Summitt we all knew was just not there anymore,
Yeah. For me, it's similar to Nicky. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to talk about the end or how. I think it's more so just with Coach Summitt, we would always FaceTime, especially when she got sick. Layla and I would FaceTime her all the time. And there was one instance around that summer that Nicky's talking about where Layla and I hung up on FaceTime with Coach, and she called back and said hi. So we talked to her. We talked to her again. She didn't remember that we talked, a few minutes ago. So we talked to her again. And then the third time she called back. And, after that, there were some Sundays where that would happen a couple times, where she would call back and not remember. But I think just understanding that there were flashes of times where she knew and she remembered and would talk and she would light up. And it was fortunate for me to be able to bring Layla to see her on some great days that she had. We had a Lady Vol reunion some years ago, and I was able to go over to her house and sit in her space. And I found out that when she was comfortable and in her space, and you were able to talk to her, she would remember things to the point where, we would laugh and talk about how crazy our class was. And I don't know how she dealt with all of our personalities. We would share stories and she would light up whenever we talked about Tyler and his stories. So it was just obviously sad. And like everybody has said, you look at Coach Summitt as invincible because to us, she was. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't think that even something as scary as early onset could beat her. Like she was going to win. And in some ways, people would argue that she has, just because of the amount of awareness. Nobody thought that she was going to bring as much awareness to anything other than women's basketball. And she has, and she's helped so many people in their fight, and her strength, even to the end, was why I wanted to get a tattoo, left foot, right foot, breathe, repeat, is because she did that her entire life, good or bad. So that's kind of, our memories of things.
One thing y'all may not know is when Jody Conrad retired in 2007, Pat Summitt was Texas #1. That's who they wanted. They were going after Pat. That's who they wanted to replace Jody Conrad. And they threw out ridiculous numbers for Pat because Texas has all the money it needs when it wants to spend it. And Pat didn't even entertain it. And she didn't go to Tennessee and demand a raise to negotiate. She said, no, I am the Tennessee Lady Vols basketball coach. So I don't, y'all may have heard that. I didn't know. I wanted to share that in case you didn't know that Texas would try to get Pat. One other story I'll share, particularly for those of you that are raising young girls. Pat, Tennessee men's side in the 90s, 80s, 90s especially had coaching changes. And it would get thrown out. Yeah, Pat could coach the men, and that was the early 90s. But, it wasn't really serious. Well, in the time between when it was late 1990s, when I think Jerry Green left and then Buzz Peterson came. Well, considering Pat for the men's job, she's off 3 consecutive national titles. That was actually a legitimate consideration by Tennessee then. So Tennessee approached Pat and said, would she consider becoming the coach of the Vols? And Pat's answer is my favorite thing that ever came out of Pat's mouth. And there were a lot of things, but she looked up right at Tennessee and said, why is that considered a step up? And that's the most powerful thing I ever heard Pat say. And she was there, like Nicky said, she wasn't there for the money. She wasn't there for the glory. She was there for the faces looking back at me on this Zoom call. She was there for her young ladies to develop them into Lady Vols for life. So I want to thank all of y'all for your time. I've kept you an hour and a half. Candace, I know it's earlier on the West Coast. I know, Alexis, you're trying to get out in Florida and party.
Maria,
Alex,
can I stop you for 2 seconds? Can I stop
Yeah.
you for 2 seconds? So I do want to say, just being a part of the Lady Vol family, it started with Pat, but it was you guys. It was Dan. It was yourself. It was Mickey. There were fans that came to practice every single day and sat and watched us practice. And that was something that Pat never let us take for granted, as that we
And
played.
DJ, don't forget DJ.
Well, DJ worked for Tennessee. I'm saying
No,
more
no,
so
I know.
like, but yes, like we're so thankful for the support that we've had, because even though that was our reality, it wasn't everybody's reality. Like to have the support to be, I mean, I remember telling people that we played second in the Midnight Madness one time. Like that was what was expected. Like Pat made it like, yeah, it's not a step up, not a step down. Like that's women's basketball. And so I think that that's what definitely drew me to Tennessee, obviously Pat and the Story program, but people like yourself that are so into Lady Vols. And so I just think we all need to continue to push that forward. So Alex's little girls and Nikki's little girls and Lex's crazy little stubborn little girls will be able to have the opportunity to play for Tennessee. So we appreciate you, Maria.
Thank you,
appreciate
Maria.
that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just cover you guys when you're here because it's a story. I want to keep up with you because you're special. But I do want to let each of y'all say happy birthday to Pat, what you would tell her. If you could speak to her right now. I mean, I know we want to also remember Pat's birthday. We lost her at 64, way too young. She would have been 68 today. It's, I mean, it's not a celebration, but it is an honor. And I know what Pat means to y'all. And I can never express how sorry I am that you lost her, because that's one of the most brutal losses for those ladies that played for her. You're also in a special group. As Pat always said, Tennessee's not for everyone. And then she wasn't kidding. So I'll let y'all close this out for us. So
y'all, can I just happy birthday? It's Pat's birthday. Happy birthday to you. We were like, Pat, can we do the black version? She's like, we're like, can we do the black version? She's like, what do you mean? Like, all right, let's sing it. Go ahead.
Yep.
I said, go ahead, Lex.
Why do I gotta start it? Huh? Give me a clap. Sunshine, you got it?
Me?
Yeah, go.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. We love you, Pat, man.
Yes.
Your memory, legacy, everything will live on through us for sure. We'll make sure of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
We miss you
ladies.
so.
Yeah, I know you miss her. I know you love her, and I know how much she loved you guys. So we'll do all we can. Thank you for giving me this time in your day. Y'all are wonderful, special young ladies. If I don't have daughters, but if I did, I'd take every last one of you. It's my own. So
Someday.
I
take
got
it.
two. You
I
can
think
have
someday.
sometimes.
Okay, Alex, just send them my way. I'll
You
take
can
care
have
of
them
them.
sometimes.
I love to babysit the little
They all
ones. Yeah, I
got
get them
sunshine
back, but-
expressions. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they
Both of
do.
them got sunshine expressions.
Yeah, they do.
So y'all,
All right, love y'all.
Ladies,
Love
you,
y'all.
love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
bye. Peace.